Hey, everybody, and I'm Rashad Gaines, chair of the Black Caucus of the Young Democrats of America. Tonight, I am joined by Constantina, aka Dina Mays, who's the chair of the YDA Women's Caucus, as well as Monica Talmadge, who is the former DNC woman and first African American woman to represent YDA at the DNC, and we're very grateful for them joining us tonight. We'll also be joined later by some of our Black Caucus cabinet members and Tyler Dos Santos Tam, who is the chair of the Young Democrats of America Asian American and Pacific Islander Caucus as well. So we're using the hashtag 15 Strong. You can tweet us at Black Caucus YDA or tweet Dina at Women of YDA and ask us any questions tonight to join this conversation. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. So we're going to kick this off. In our preliminary conversation, Monica, who you can't see right now because she's driving, was telling us just how excited she was about 15 Strong. So Monica, I'm going to let you kick off the conversation.
Oh my God! Thank you so much, Rashad, and for everyone who is on this call and on this hangout. I am incredibly excited for you all to be here, and it's just we're in such a time as this. That is the first thing that comes to my mind is in such a time as this. We are in a moment in history where we are seeing a president who is up against every rallying foe that he possibly could have. It is, predominated by Republicans, and he stood there at the podium as relaxed as I think anybody has ever seen him or to be elected. I'm very excited about what we're getting ready to see from this president, from what's coming from the White House. I really hope that John Boehner and Joni Ernst, and I hope she's done with whatever in the world it is that she said, because I walked out on her response. I didn't even want to hear it. I really hope that they're ready, because this is not the president this is not a meek and mild president. He has one more full year left in office, and I think he's going to take it to these Republicans, and he's going to take it to them hard. I don't think they're ready. I was watching, just word to the wise, never watch a State of the Union address with a parent who's a little crazy, because I was watching it with my mother, and my mom is unfiltered. If you all were in Pittsburgh this past summer, you got a chance to meet my crazy mom, and she is completely unfiltered. And she said, she was like, those Republicans thought they done messed with the wrong dude. And it just made sense. She's right. They messed with the wrong man. I think you saw a man that's ready to take his cufflinks out and roll his sleeves up and, kind of stand up and put his chin up, If you're in the black community, you know what that means. You know what time it is when a dude puts his chin up. So excited. I'm so excited. I'm excited. I'm more excited for you all more than I am anybody else, because this year I turned 36, so I'm officially out of, wow, I have a lot going on. I'm officially out of the Young Democrats as of this year. So I'm excited for you that you have the opportunity to be a part of this movement and what's getting ready to happen, and the dethroning of so many Republicans out of so many state houses. So, I definitely will turn this back over to Rashad, but I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm rejuvenated. This is my second most favorite political day of the year, outside of Election Day, and I'm just going to turn it back over to Rashad, and I'm ready. I will definitely see all you clowns in Los Angeles. Faux show. You better believe that.
All right, thanks, Mott. So you said something very interesting about President Obama fighting the Republicans and all of that great stuff. So my question is, 6 years, we have 2 years left in his presidency. I've never and I've watched every State of the Union. I've hosted several State of the Union parties, and unless I can't remember correctly, I've never seen him as forceful and direct during his presidency as he was tonight. And it seems that I guess, this moment, President Obama kind of reminds me of myself, because it's like when all of the blocks are stacked against you, that's when all of a sudden you get really bold. But when he had the Democratic majority in the Senate, he had the Democratic majority in the House, he was very calm, very humble, very meek. I would say a little more passive. And tonight was the first time that I've seen him be. This is the most aggressive I've seen him seen. He still wasn't aggressive, but he was very direct and forceful. Dina, what's your take on that?
Look, I think overall, he was straight to the point. He was passionate, and let me tell you, he really just nailed it right between the eyes and kept it real. He has nothing to lose now, and he's been trolling the Republicans, and he's been going out there and hitting everything that he really wants to do now. And he said it himself, which I just got so pumped when he said that, look, I don't have any more campaigns to run. And then the way their reaction were, and he just came back and said, yeah, I won them all. And for me, that just took the cake. He has nothing to lose anymore, and now he can really start to nail it to some of these Republicans and make sure that we get past. If anything, he's going to do whatever he can with the power of the president to push forward free community college, really hit on student loans. He focused on equal pay, and he really is pushing all these other issues, climate change, and he kept it real, and that is what we needed. And the energy from his speech really got me excited as a young Democrat and makes me want to like put up my dukes and say, let's go out there and fight. And that means fighting at the local level to go back and win some of these state legislatures. We've got some elections coming up this year as well as next year. We've got 2016. We've got to fire people up, and that's what he was doing. He's saying we're not going to quit yet. We've got things to do, and we got to keep moving forward. And he was able to, at the end, say, we went through tough things, and we're going to still go through them, but be able to be successful and then be able to go out there and achieve more.
Absolutely. So, so as we're moving forward, let's get into some of the nuts and bolts of the speech. The biggest thing right now is the tuition waiver, or the tuition movement, to help more Americans be able to afford a college education. We all understand the weight of student loan debt. We understand the harassing phone calls. Some people are dealing with wage garnishment, or some type of issue dealing with student loan debt. What's your take on that, Dina? And do you feel that this plan, following, I want to say it's Tennessee who already has this in place, following Tennessee's agenda, is this going to work? What do you think the impact is going to be 10 years from now?
You're going to see a lot more American students, people who thought they couldn't get by and be able to go to college. You're going to see them with good degrees. You're going to see that their families were able to afford it because they offer this. And you're going to see people who may have not thought that they would be able to achieve their degrees go out there and be successful and be able to pick out their careers and be able to be those leaders in their community. So I really think he's making a long-lasting impact for generations to come, and we got to make sure that we continue and sustain that movement.
Monica.
Yes.
College tuition.
Well, I mean, considering this is a president and first lady that only got their student loans from their education paid off within the last, 5 to 6 years that they've been in the White House, or they only got them paid off just as they were getting into the White House, and that meant they were in their late 40s. That should tell you that this president and this presidency understands the mounting cost of college loans and college loan debt. He said he came up with a very interesting metric that I thought 2 out of 3 jobs here in the next 5 to 10 years is going to require some sort of post-high school education. Even if it ain't but 1 year, you're going to have at least a year of college. College is exorbitantly expensive at this point. A lot of the reason why so many people haven't gone back to get advanced degrees is because, quite frankly, they can't afford it. I am one of those people that I know how that feels to get those harassing phone calls. I know how that feels to not be able to pay your student loans back, or to be able to pay them back as effectively or as efficiently as you'd want to, just because you have to be able to buy food. You know, food is important. Light bills are important. Rent is important. Car payments are important. To get back and forth to the job that you strove so hard that you're working so hard to pay the college loans for, sometimes a job that's not even in your field. So I think he took a major step forward in making in striving to make community college free and affordable and free. To the point where it will be free. And I think he really kind of called out the Republican Party when he pointed out that it's working in a Republican-controlled state like Tennessee. I would have liked to have seen the representation from the state of Tennessee, be it Republican, be it Democrat, to stand up and to take credit for that. But what did I see Republicans doing? I saw Republicans sitting there. And if that's what they want to do, if that's how they want to acknowledge the things that they're doing in their red states, then let them sit, because because this is going to happen. It's going to happen for the American people, and it's going to happen for the American youth.
Absolutely. You know, switching the conversation a little bit. So, what's up with old boy gonna spend a year out there, like floating around in space on Jupiter and Mars? Like, what's really going on with that? Like, when he said he's gonna spend a year out in space, I was like, negative.
Now you just said negative because you wouldn't be able to eat your fried chicken and macaroni and cheese. Let's keep it real.
There are no southern restaurants in space. I'm not going.
No, there are no southern restaurants. There are no Greek restaurants. There are no restaurants at all in space.
You might have some frozen beef gyros somewhere.
Girl, and see, it can't be froze, honey. It can't be froze. It has to be fresh. But you know, I find that to be really interesting. It's Steve Kelly. Is Representative Gifford's husband, or is that his twin brother? I couldn't look fast enough. Was that her husband, or was that her? Because I know her husband is a twin, and her husband's twin is also in the space program. I didn't know if that was Gabby Gifford's husband or his twin brother. So I mean, I'm just sitting there thinking, I don't know. Space is for me though. I don't know. It could be just me though. My bad.
Not interested. Not interested, because they have to lose weight. Y'all know I'm fat, so we ain't going out that. But with that being said, okay, so moving along. So he brought up the I guess our modern day civil rights issue, which right now, to me, this isn't our modern day civil rights issue, but for another group it could be, gay marriage. And he talked about the path that gay marriage has taken, I guess, since 1999, when it became a really big issue for the Bush campaign, Bush and Gore. I remember back in 99 and 2000 how that really came to the forefront, and even more so in 2004. And of course, it played well down south in the Bible Belt. But now, in a lot of states, even my state of South Carolina, gay marriage is now legal. It was really interesting to see the responses of everyone's faces as he noted gay rights now being the modern day civil rights moment. Dana?
Well, look, I think what happened is the states took it upon themselves when Congress didn't act, and it's the progressive movement. And then when they tried to pass these, then the courts came in and said, look, you can't do this as a civil right. So this was needed to happen. This is something that that couldn't be stopped. And I think this is a reflection of the public and just how progressive we're moving. And it's just about time that I think we just get with the program when it comes to making sure that folks have equal opportunities in all things. One person shouldn't be less than the other.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So where do we go next? There's clearly going to be a lot of backlash from this Congress. Um, every time the camera hit Mia Love, who is a black woman, African American woman, excuse me, uh, a woman of Nubian descent. Excuse me, she's Haitian
Call it
American.
right.
Yeah,
Call it right.
she's Haitian American. Um, the seed of immigrants in America who represents Utah, and Mia also happens to be elected to Congress as a Republican who has vowed to disassemble the Congressional Black Caucus. And so it was really interesting to me every time I saw the camera hit this very authentically pigmented woman with braids in her hair who happens to be a Republican. It's kind of interesting to me.
Let me say this. I am the anti-Mia Love. She's let me say this. Let me also say it like this. She's a beautiful woman. I think she's
Very.
absolutely beautiful, Nubian, cute, ebony chocolate sister. I think the personal respect to do and what you've been able to accomplish. Nothing but respect. Saying that, I am the anti. She's slight and she's petite. I'm tall and I'm a little curvier. Where she's brown, I'm light skinned. She got long hair, I got short hair. She's a Republican, I'm a Democrat. We could probably make for some very interesting television. Let me just say that too. But I find it fascinating. I agree with what you're saying. I find it fascinating that every time the camera was on her, she looked absolutely out of her element. She looked out of her wig. And I will say this: I'd like to see her go up against the likes of G.K. Butterfield, who's chair of the Congressional Black Caucus and the congressman from the first congressional district of the great state of North Carolina. I like her to try to go against G.K. Butterfield. She ain't got enough braids in her hair or enough puff in her heart to go against G.K. Butterfield. He would eviscerate her. So I invite her to try to dismantle a caucus that speaks to a particular affinity. Just like they have a women's caucus, just like they have a veterans caucus, just like a caucus. So if you're going to get rid of one boo-boo, you need to get rid of them all. She ain't got enough time for that. I think she's going to learn very quickly that you have to make allies of everyone. You have to make your allies on both sides of the aisle. And I think she's going to also find very quickly that Democratic women are going to look at her as probably as crazy as some of the black folks there in the Congress as well. She's got a tough road to hoe because she was something of she's her stock is pretty high, her star is shining bright, so she's going to be a pretty good target for some folks. I hope she's making some friends on the other side of the aisle. I find it interesting that she's a Republican but was wearing a blue dress. So I'm thinking that she's probably a Democrat at heart. She just don't want to tell nobody. So again, I said about all the nice things that I can possibly think of to say about her, but I'm interested to see.
Ma, you breaking up a little bit. But Dina, I'll let you.
Might be going to a bad patch in Gary, North Carolina.
Okay. Dina, so as Monica is very colorful, and I appreciate that because I would have went in a whole completely different other way. But being a woman, so this is so I'm gonna put it in perspective for you. Being a woman, chairing the women's caucus, how do you feel when you hear women speak boldly, um, being, I guess, anti-choice?
I'm also a woman of faith, so for me, it's
Well,
important.
praise the Lord.
So it's important, to have your values and to make sure that you stand by your beliefs. But at the same time, we have church is separate from government. And at the end of the day, we represent, when you're elected, you represent all the folks in your district, not just one particular group. I think her as a new leader in Congress, I think she's going to learn that you have to build compromise, that you have to be able to work together on things that are not exactly black and white, and a lot of gray in between, and a lot of hard choices that you have to make. So when I hear women that really go against things that we should be having, making sure that women have the right to choose, to make sure that they have the clean, best choice possible, going to the doctor, they have that choice. It's their personal choice. We cannot interfere with people's personal lives. We have to give them all the options that they deserve as Americans in this country. So for me, it's very troubling. It's very disappointing because we can't just be one-sided. People have come from all walks of life, and I think as someone who has to represent their community and all of their community, she would have to really start thinking about what alliances that she has to build across the aisle to represent her district and make the right choices as a woman. So it really does bother me, and I think it's going to continue moving forward as Democratic women. And I think overall, though, there are women that are on both sides that don't want certain things to happen, and I think that's where push comes to shove. I think women, at the end of the day, will build coalitions, and women in Congress more than not the others there, men, have been able to build coalitions more easily. So I think that there's some, but there's some who just want to shoot out there and spew whatever they want to spew, and think that that's the end game.
It the thing that gets me is it amazes me how in the black community it is so easy, it's so simple to it's almost like it's expected for the black community is what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is it's very easy and it's like always known that it doesn't take much to get black people to work against other black people or black people to work against themselves. Like it doesn't. It seems like black people always vote against their own best interest, and that's a common knowledge. And I'm not trying to turn this into a race-based conversation, but white people in leadership or white people in power know that they can always find a black person to do their bidding against other black people. And being the chair of this caucus and working in social justice and racial justice and the politics of social and racial justice and the new civil rights movement, it bothers me that people know that you can always get black people to work against other black people. That doesn't
Yes.
make sense to me. And we allow it. Like, we allow it. Um, People know that they can get, the dark skinned person to turn against everybody else in the group, or the light skinned person to turn against all the dark skinned people in the group, or the girl with the blonde hair to turn against all the other women in the organization. Like, they know, like, they are keenly aware that there are people in almost every group, and it's like it's like there's a book or something that's sold somewhere that we got to find it to see what's in it, because it's like the personality traits can be picked off. They know exactly who to go to do their bidding. It's so easy. And I find that problematic moving into just where America is going. It's like, will we ever be able to make real strides forward? Because you're going to always have a group of people who are willing to throw everybody under the bus so that they can have 15 seconds of fame. But that bothers me.
I wasn't sure if you were done yet.
I'm done. I'm sorry. I had to, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Please jump in.
I don't know if I really could really speak to that. But what I can say is, in any community, when we have to work together to fight for whatever progressive issues we have to make sure that we try to build those coalitions. And that's been my experience as an organizer, trying to make sure that we extend our hand to all different organizations, diverse groups, to make sure that they're all represented and helping each other out when we're moving forward, whether it's affordable housing issues, whether it's student loan debt, whether it's immigration reform. Different groups have different issues that they care about, and they become interesting partners, and the most unlikely of partners as well. So for me, I'm always looking to strive towards that.
Absolutely. Mark, you still there?
I am. I needed to get hooked up to my home wireless network. I just wanted to respond to something that you said just a few moments ago when I was coming in the door that I think I may have missed or I didn't get the chance to respond to. I find it to be interesting that in just about every group you have that one individual that can be picked out that like you said, that can just dissent for the sake of dissenting. That can just be that rub under the gums just for the sake of being the rub under the gums. Mm-hmm. I've always been a little leery of the Tim Scotts and the Mia Loves and the Ben Carsons of the world, because I don't feel like they're making salient points for the sake of making salient points. I feel like they're just talking to agitate the group. Here in North Carolina, during the 2014 cycle, we had an openly gay gentleman running for our Court of Appeals, and about a week or so, maybe 2 weeks before the election, you had one of our Republican House members get a group of black clergymen to stand up and speak out against his homosexuality. And this was one of the ministers that was in this group is already a minister who he and I have had some choice words for one another in public. And quite frankly, and I pray I don't offend anyone on this phone call, but I'll tell you what I said to him. I said, "You do realize that you're being," and I said this to him, "You're being a white man's nigger. You're doing what he tells you to do, without any forethought of what it's going to do to the community on whole." And I think we got folks that are like that. They're just going to do what they're told, and honestly, they might truly feel Mia Love might truly feel strongly about what she's doing, but to purposely and pointedly not stand up for policies that she might agree with just to toe the party line, what does that do for the good of Utah? What does that do for the good of her family? What does that do for the good of other black women? Because let's be clear, she can't change the fact that she's a black woman. She might be able to legislate her way away from that, but that does not change the fact that when I look at her, when she looks at me, we see a kindredness in that we're both black women. We have that issue. We've always had that issue, and until we overcome that, that's going to constantly be an issue.
I agree. So, Tyler, are you on with us?
He said his camera's not working. Not sure if microphone's working either.
I don't think it's working at all.
His picture is fabulous.
What you said?
His picture is fabulous. Look at him just sitting there smiling with his silver tie.
He said,
"Thanks, Monica."
No worries.
Yeah.
Makes me want to fly to Honolulu.
Please don't. Please don't. We cannot have a repeat of last week. Please don't fly to Honolulu. Tyler, we love you. Get that stuff fixed so you can join us. Okay, so just move aside from Mia because I'm about tired of her Um, so how do we as young people, I guess this is where we need to go in this conversation. How do we as leaders, young leaders in the Democratic Party and the leaders of the Young Democrats of America fully engage our respective demographics and communities to be more involved in the process, or just, and I don't want them to join YDA. I just want them to vote. I want them to attend a city council meeting. I want them to be engaged in some capacity. How do we take tonight's message, mince it down, get it where it needs to get, so that the people that we speak to can understand it and that they can buy into this process? I mean, other than the fact that the media is very disrespectful to President Obama, um, what can we do to make sure that people are fully engaged and have an understanding of what our president is doing for the betterment of our country?
We're the messengers. We have to continue to repeat the message. Look, his evidence of what he's done so far as president, it's very clear. He was to the point. He laid out everything, all the successes that he's done, and we have to constantly repeat that. He really didn't just talk to the American people, but he also is talking to us as Democrats to make sure we go and turn around and relay his message out there, and making sure that we hit people with the facts, and then also those relationships we build in our communities to go out there and really hit those people and build those relationships so we can engage them to be involved in their communities if they're not already involved in their communities, whether it's going to a town hall meeting, whether it's becoming a county community person, whether it's just involving themselves in a community service in their community so they can be able to give back. The president's message tonight has said that clearly. I mean, he was even key on points about how we had to go through some things. Especially when it came to the job market, when it came to student people, the housing market. So for us, I think as young Democrats, we have to make sure we relay his message, whether it's doing, whether using all sorts of social media efforts, as well as us actually traveling around the country and making sure that all those leaders are equipped and educated with the message so they can go and talk about why we're doing things the right way, why we have to continue fighting, and what's going on in these states, and show support. That means us as leaders nationally showing support, and then helping and learning from the people on the ground how things are how things are happening down there, as well as what is happening, so we can make sure we make the right decisions and be strategic, whether it's election, whether it's legislation, training, development, professional development for young Democrats, or just even if it's just folks that are in our age range, that they're passionate. Look, I'll tell you right now, he's been the president since 2008. There's a whole new other generation within the millennials that just turned 18 every year, and they see him as our president. And I think he speaks more to our generation now than I think anybody else that's older than us. So I think we already have the influence of this president in the things we do, in the innovations that we've created. Now it's just a matter of keeping that momentum going and getting that jolt of energy we got tonight and being able to distribute that to people around the country. We can't do that ourselves. Like me and you, Rashad, we're only two people.
Absolutely. So if you're just joining the conversation, please use the hashtag 15strong, and we can get your questions on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and what else? Oh, Google Plus. So please use the hashtag. But no, you're absolutely correct. So I know the Young Democrats will be in Puerto Rico March 7th and 8th, I believe. I will actually not be there that weekend. I'll be in Selma, Alabama for the 50th anniversary of the Bloody Sunday and march across the Edward Pettus Bridge. So I'm really excited about the opportunity to share with that. But the Young Democrats will be in Puerto Rico. They'll be in Richmond, May 15th through 17th.
Yeah, 15th to the 17th.
Yeah, and of course our national convention is August 18th through 22nd in Los Angeles, California. But there's so much work to be done between those meetings, and I don't want people to join the mindset that, oh, this is Young Dan, we just go, we just travel and we get to look cute and all of that great stuff. But there's so much work that has to be done. One thing I told the caucus in an email last week was nothing is more disappointing than someone being a national wonder but a local blunder. All politics are local. Everyone is such in a hurry and often a rush to get to D.C. to try to build a name for themselves, or everyone's trying to get up to the speaker or to the elected officials so they can get a picture for Facebook or Twitter so that they can appear to be important. But in real life, do you know your mayor? Do you know your county councilman? Matter of fact, it's not about do you know who they are, because anybody can Google that. The question is, do they know you?
Right.
That's the real question. Do they know you? Are they someone that they see on a regular, or do you only call them when the trash man forgets to pick up your trash the day after a holiday? You know, like, so that's the thing. We have to get back to a place where we understand we have to build our local economy. You have to shop locally. You have to shop small. You have to attend those local meetings. You have to get involved at home, because that's where you're going to make the greatest impact. I would hate to be on CNN or MSNBC as a correspondent and no one from my hometown knew who I was. I think that'd be a little disappointing.
Well, Rashad, let me just make a comment towards that. Like, look, I think it's really important that people get involved and know their community. But what if people just don't know what to do and how to get started? It's part of the job as the elected official who serves the community to reach out to members of their community to make sure they're educated. I know as we are already active and engaged, so we are already conscious of making sure that we go and encourage other young people within the age, obviously younger than us and young professionals, and those that are 18 and younger, high school students and so on, to be encouraging them to actually go out and engage with their electeds. But some of them just don't know. They just don't know how to get involved. And that's not their fault. I also think sometimes it's not the fault of the public servants. Sometimes they don't always think that certain groups, are engaged. But I'll tell you what, I've got to make sure that us that are already a lot of people doing great work. Making sure
Dana, hold on a second. Tyler, mute.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't know how to.
Hey, Tyler.
Okay, we're getting.
Tyler!
Wait.
Tyler, we were just talking about young people being active in their community, what that looks like, and then also them actually doing something in their community, making sure that they have some sort of connection locally. Because Rashad said all politics is local. And I was just kind of speaking to that, because sometimes I think some students, some young folks, don't always know what to do.
Tyler, unmute yourself.
There we go. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
We
Is the
can.
background too loud?
No, it's
use your
good.
headphones.
Okay. I don't know if this works, but we're going to give this a try. So, talking about everything being local, I just want to show you what's going on in our Democratic Party office here.
Oh, nice.
We have a number of our young Dems who gathered to watch the State of the Union. And, this is a pretty regular occurrence. We got together for the Oregon-Ohio State game. And anyway, so we love things on the local level. But going to the question of everything being local, I think that there are a number of things that we can do as young Dems on the local level to make a difference on these big national issues, whether it's income inequality. We can advocate to make sure that there's good public transportation that serves poor neighborhoods so people can get to jobs. We can advocate to make sure that in terms of healthcare, that we have grocery stores in poor neighborhoods. and people have access to healthy food. And these are all things that we can do by talking to our city council members, our county council members, and our neighbors to make sure that that happens. We're never going to change John McCain's mind about something, but we can surely change our city council members and mayors' minds about things and move them in the right direction. And I think all of us doing that in our own individual communities will go a long way. So you can all hear me?
Yeah.
We hear you.
I heard you, Tyler. Montega, you want to say? Did you say something yet? I didn't hear anything from you on this yet. The local.
No, I didn't. I was sort of waiting. Just kind of waiting for everybody to speak. And I think if you have the audacity to think that you want to change the world, you ought to have the audacity to be able to introduce yourself to a member of the county commission or the city council. Going to city council, I will say, like here in Raleigh, city council meetings are sometimes in the middle of the day, in terms of work sessions. But city council meetings, the larger council meetings, are 7 o'clock in the evening. So, like Tyler has said, you can get to know your mayor, you can get to know your city councilman. You just have to have the audacity to want to do it. I got involved when I was a kid by asking questions. How do I, who do I reach out to? How do I know when the city council meeting is? How do I know how to reach out to these people? Where do I go? Who do I talk to? And when I asked questions, I got answers. So, I agree with you. It can't always be incumbent upon the elected official, because they do have an actual job to do. And I do hold high school and college students a little bit more accountable these days, because they can Google anybody. They can Google a phone number. They can Google an email address. They can search those things out if they really want to get to know someone. So it's just the audacity to want to try to make a change and to find the people who can make that change, who can affect that change. Yeah, Rashad, I agree with you. It's not do you know of this person, but do they know who you are? When you go to a cocktail party, do they say, "Oh, hey, young man, how are you?" Or, "Hey, young lady, how you been?" And sometimes they're not good with names. But by and large, if they see your face and if they've interacted with you enough, they're going to say, "Hey, Montega, how you been, darling? How's things going?" Even if they don't know the details, they at least know your name. That's how I kind of gauge the fact, I've been involved in this in a long time, so I kind of gauge people by, can you say my name? That means you've said my name before. That means we've had conversations before. It means we've engaged before. So, as we have these meetings, there is so much work to be done. To whom much is given, much is required. And we are given quite a bit as young leaders. But we've got to engage young people younger than us to bring them into the fold. It's probably more incumbent upon folks who are older in Young Democrats, and I would say probably suffice to say people between the age of 25 and 35, to go out and recruit these young high school students and college students to bring them into the fold, to let them know that the vineyards are heavy and laden with fruit, but the workers are few.
You better quote that scripture.
but we shut up, Rashad. PK here, PK. We've got to make sure that they understand that this labor is not going to be easy. That just because the party looks wonderful, just because the celebration is great, there's a lot of work that goes into that. And it's not always putting pictures on Instagram. It's not always putting pictures on Facebook. It's not always saying that I'm here, I'm there, I'm at the White House, I'm at the DNC, I'm here, whatever. That's not where the work gets done. The work is done in your neighborhoods. The work is done between being able to get those photo bombs and those photo ops. So let's let them know that the glamour is fun, but the work is that much better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Y'all, this has been really great. Thank y'all so much for joining us.
Unmute, Tyler.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm sorry I missed much of the conversation. I was wondering if you guys touched on the infrastructure piece at all. I
No,
know that was
jump
something
on
the
it.
president
We
Take it
have.
really
away.
emphasized.
Take it
And,
away.
there's a number of things that I'd like to say. One is that it's disappointing that certain people in Congress or a certain block of Congress people continue to try to stop this at every step of the way. This is something that benefits everyone, not just Democrats or Republicans. But everyone drives on our roads, and everyone drives on our highways, and people of all types, take the bus and use our sidewalks and bridges and all this. So I think that's something that we as young people can definitely get on board with and advocate for. Again, I go back to public transportation being something really important to the younger generation. A lot of us don't have cars and rely on this to
Sir,
get around.
Mr. Tam, my hand
Yeah.
is raised. I'm
Yes.
I'm just kind of distracted. Tyler, please tell me that's a backdrop.
No, it's a real thing.
Oh my God.
This is our party headquarters.
God.
Jealous.
And please raise your hand if you are over Tyler at this moment.
Yes.
I'm done with you.
He might-
Like, I'm so over you right now.
Yes. And let me guess. It's in the 80s there, isn't it, Tyler?
Yep, the sun's still out too.
Wow. It's
Done.
cold.
Finished.
So y'all are always welcome.
Okay, back to the conversation. Go ahead.
But I think another thing that we often miss out on as young Dems in infrastructure is the fact that a lot of the construction workers who do work on these projects, especially when they're federally funded, a lot of them are good union jobs, and this is an opportunity for young people to get training, to make a good career. And I say this as someone who works with a group of construction unions. I think as young Dems, as activists and organizers who focus on the policy side, I think a lot of times we forget about the blue-collar kind of young people. And I think we need to remember them and help them get back to work, because I think a lot of them were really hit hard in the recession. We're finally getting out of it. And so when we invest in highways and roads and bridges, we're providing jobs for young people and training for them so they can be employed for the rest of their lives. So I was really glad about the push for infrastructure, and that ties into the push for community college as well, because that's where a lot of the good quality training comes in as well.
So a question that I would have regarding, talking about infrastructure, I remember back in 2010, I was working on a race in Birmingham, Alabama, and one of the gubernatorial candidates talked about their roads and bridges being fixed by the inmates. And they talked about, the paint being, mixed with glass so that it reflects on the highway, and all the stuff, little things that go on into infrastructure that we have no idea about, because that's not something that we do. But where does this privatization and prison corporation piece fall into line? There's a lot of money made by our prison systems. There are a lot of jobs that are being done by people who are wrongfully incarcerated, people who are pretty much damned to a life behind bars so that someone else can get rich off of that. We all know the war on drugs and all of those things are gimmicks to fatten somebody's pocket. So there are a lot of things that go on that the average person doesn't know. They think that something is wrong, but we know the facts. We know we've been a part of the stuff. So how does that knowledge play into that conversation?
I think that's something we need to educate people about. That's the first thing, because this is the first time I'm hearing about this in Alabama, and so more people definitely should know. I think the second thing is this ties into workers' rights. I think where states have stronger unions, have workers who are able lawfully to get together and stand up for their rights, we see less of these problems. And where we see workers who don't have these rights, whose rights are being trampled on, they just get rolled right over, and don't have the opportunity to get these quality jobs, and are given to big corporations who have these unsavory practices, and that needs to end. So I think we need a multifaceted approach here. But it shows that everything's tied together. It really is. And that's why I'm glad that the president touched on so many different topics.
Absolutely.
Because it's all part of this big picture of moving forward.
For sure.
And I think for YDA, I think our caucuses need to be more active in educating the rest of YDA about their issues. And I think that the caucuses need to band together and start being true allies on these issues. Because I don't know if the Labor Caucus has taken a position on this prisoner issue. I don't know if the individual ethnic or racial caucuses have, because I know that their members are being affected. So we need everyone to start working together, and I don't know how that starts, but being a caucus or provisional caucus chair, I'm ready to help.
Beautiful. Okay, so as we begin to wrap up this beautiful conversation, we just had a question come in from Antoine from Mississippi. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. He said, now that the president has set the agenda for the nation and perhaps the party, will YDA update their present course of action in their own policy planning or strategies? What must YDA and the Black Caucus of the Young Democrats of America, or what are YDA's and the Black Caucus's next steps to move forward? So I'm going to let Monica, former executive board member, jump on that. Go ahead.
I knew you were going to throw it to me. And thank you so much, Antoine, for asking that question. Any organization, and I can't speak for the idea that I'm no longer on the executive board. I want to say that I'm no longer a member of the executive board, but were I counseling the president and were I counseling the executive board with any organization, there has to be some room for growth, and there has to be some room for flexibility. As we go into the last 6 or so months, 8 months of a team as presidency, we're going to have to figure out how young people are going to respond to changing to the changing environment that is going to be coming out of Washington. There's going to be policies. There's going to be executive orders, or there are going to be new laws. There's going to be new issues that are going to come out of Washington because of the Republican-controlled Congress versus the democratically controlled White House that we're going to have to be able to respond to. And that, like Tyler said, when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to education, when it comes to student loans, when it comes to so many of these things, we're going to have to be very quick on our feet and very nimble on our feet in terms of educating people. That's the policy standpoint. That's where we're going to have to go based on what the president told us tonight. Now, what the organization specifically going to have to do? The organization specifically is going to have to get out of its own way. You all are going to have to work together as a group, put the inside baseball, save the inside baseball for Los Angeles, and things kind of shake out as they may in terms of elections, and really focus on the policy that is coming out of Washington, that's coming out of D.C., and it's going to be trickling down through the college Democrats into the to the high school Democrats organization. That would be my best advice to each of you, and each caucus as well. You're going to be in a place of being reactionary for a little bit. We don't have the power. We can't be as proactive as we would want to be. So just be quick on your feet. Be nimble in your thoughts, and be nimble in your heart, and be ready to move at a moment's notice, considering the type of policies that are going to be coming down the pike from this Republican-controlled Congress. Back to you, Rashad.
Dean, I'm gonna let you jump on.
Well, could you repeat that question because I didn't hear the last part and then I was trying to listen to Monica on what some of it.
Okay, so he asked, now that the president has set the agenda for the nation and perhaps the party, will A, YDA update its present course of action in their own policy planning and strategies? And then B, what must YDA and the BCYDA do as its next steps to move forward?
Well, I just want to make a side comment real quick to that. I just got a message from our digital director who couldn't, she was trying to get on, but she messaged me and told me that she wanted to make sure that as a communication director, she's actively working with the YDA board as a new digital director to focus on making sure they have connections with the caucuses, the regions, making sure that they're relaying and communicating that message out to the communities and to the public. And they're building a really strong focus. And as far as the platform is concerned, she's looking to really start promoting more of what's going on with the organization, as well as increasing outreach. So that was like her kind of feedback on that topic. And kind of what I want to jump in and say as well is, as a caucus leader, I'm striving to make sure that we include our members of the caucuses to make sure they're educated. As far as YDA, we already have a platform that is in alignment with the president. We are part of the Democratic Party. So for us to keep moving forward, we adjust when we need to adjust. We have leaders all over the country that are doing great things in their local community. So it's just a matter of making sure that we showcase those leaders and making sure that we're on message with the president as well as with the Democratic Party to go out there and fight for those issues that we're doing. So I really think that we have people, we just got to keep relaying that message. And we have more people that are jumping on board now with, like, you know, the last 6 months really pushing the rest of this platform that we have, and they're going to be updating the platform in LA. But this organization is already having impact in the local level. You know, Tyler starting the API caucus, as well as Rashad evolving caucuses around the country, having more caucuses out there, as well as having newer leaders that are coming into the fold now, 1DA, and actually going out there and relaying these messages. So I think we're on point. We just got to keep going and hammering the message out there and adjust when appropriate.
I don't know where Tyler went. He may or may not be back. But I'll say this. I can't speak for YD as a whole because I don't speak for YD as a whole. But what I will say, if I could give advice, because I guess we're not in the lame duck period yet, but we'll be there soon as we're fading out with this current administration. We're moving, and what I would suggest to the next group of leaders that'll be leading the organization, don't spend time on something and then don't follow through with it. There are a lot of people who spend a lot of time developing our platform, and our members, A, never see it. So our members can't take action on anything because they don't know where we stand. B, if our members never see it, I question if the officers know it. Because if the members don't see it, do the officers see it? And so I think that the course of action is going to be based on what we're doing. We spend a lot of time developing our platform for us to not do appropriate action on those items. We can't be reactionary anymore. We cannot only do digital tactics and do forms and lobbying for singular issues. And that's always been our thing. We've been we've been one-dimensional. And we have to be multi-dimensional characters, multi-dimensional leaders, because we live in a multi-dimensional society. There's always multiple things going on at one time. There's never a time where there's only one thing happening. Right now, we're dealing with the aftermath of gay marriage going across America. Yay. We're dealing with black boys being killed. No yay. We're dealing with cops, police officers, law enforcement being killed. Not a good thing. We're dealing with education becoming a hindrance to some people because they can't afford it. Not a good thing. We're dealing, even though the economy may be growing and jobs are being brought into this country and jobs are being created. I still know a lot of people that are broke who can't find a job with degrees, without degrees, and some people who can't spell degree. There's still a lot of people. So those are four things that I just named that are going on right now. And we can't focus on just one of them. We have to focus at all. And all of us are Bible scholars, so we understand Jesus said, I became all so that I can save some. You can't just do one thing at one time. You have to do all things at all times for all people. That's what we're supposed to do. It was only one Jesus, and there's billions of us. So what's our excuse? So that's my take on that. As far as the Black Caucus, I have 7 more months of leadership, and I'll just continue to do my best to really motivate my members and encourage them to be involved locally. Because if they get involved locally, they'll be involved at their county and their regional and their state levels, and then the greater regional levels and nationally. Like if we have people who care about, if you care about people in your local community having jobs, it's not going to be hard to plug you into what the Department of Labor is trying to do. If you care about the local banks being there so that they can lend money to local homeowners and local business people and not rob them on the interest rates and not, do this predatory lending crap, you actually might care about, some of the regulations that are going on federally. So I'm just a firm believer that if we're doing things the correct way locally, we'll handle business. And so I just go back to that. As far as pushing what the president is doing, I don't think there's going to be a single black person in America who's upset that President Obama wants to make community college free. I just don't see that happening anytime soon, especially with all of the issues that a lot of people in our community have with going to school. It's amazing to me. I've never seen the question about have you ever committed murder. That's not on the FAFSA education. Excuse me, the FAFSA application. But the question is, have you been convicted of a drug or controlled substance violation? Do you have a felony related to drugs or substance? Some type of illegal substance. That's on the FAFSA education. Well, who are the people who lead the country's numbers in being incarcerated for drugs and other, illegal or controlled substances? Those are people who are African American, and that's a hindrance to black people going to school because they can't get the financial aid to pay for school if a college will allow them in because of the drug conviction or the felony conviction. So it's like it's two issues. A, can you get to school with the conviction? And then B, you're not allowed to get financial aid if you're able to. And if a person is applying for financial aid, more than likely they can't afford to pay for classes on their own. So I don't see how that's going to be a bad thing. I don't see how fixing roads so I don't have to sit here and buy tires every other month is going to be a bad thing. I don't think that the things that the president wants to do are going to be, yes, Tyler, we still are, they're going to be things so heinous that we're going to have to really rally the troops behind President Obama. But I do think the troops have to be rallied to send him help. We did not show up at the polls. We did not send him help. So he can go out here and have this very direct and beautiful speech and look good in his dark blue suit with his little salt and pepper hair all day long, all the great stuff. First Lady can be up there with her beautiful skirt suit, looking all nice and stuff. She got her hair did today. She looked very beautiful. All that is really nice. But we didn't send him any help, so we know he's going to have hell getting this legislation passed. They're going to fight him on he told them, yeah, I'm a veto. But they can overturn a veto. Congress can overturn a veto. So there's going to be some backlash. There's going to be a strong fight. These next 2 years are going to be pure political theater. And I hope that I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong. I would love for us to do this again in 2 years, and now y'all tell me that everything I'm saying is wrong. But this man is gonna have a very tough time. It's gonna be very tough for him. So, but the Black Caucus is here to support our president. We're here to support the members of Congress, both Republican and Democrat, who will support our president and who will bring forth legislation that will work towards bettering America. And we're here to support our governors that will do the same thing. And we're here to support our mayors and our county commissioners that will do the same thing. If you're about improving life for people, trust me, we are behind you 100%, Democrat or Republican. I'm from Aiken, South Carolina. I'm not like the rest of y'all who come from Democratic places who get to tell everybody, I've never voted for Republican. I am from Aiken, South Carolina. Sometimes Democrats can't spell ballot. We don't even have Democrats running on the ballot. I have definitely voted for Republicans, and I will continue to do so if they will be for improving the lives of the people who vote for them and not for selfish party interests. Tyler, go ahead, because I can talk all night about that.
Oh, no, I just wanted to apologize for technical difficulties.
Go ahead. You got it. We're still on that. We're still on the last question.
Want to repeat the question, Rashad?
You want me to repeat it, Tyler?
Yeah. Please repeat it.
Yeah. Now that President Obama has laid out the plan for the nation and the party, how can YDA update its course of action to do so, and what will YDA next steps be, and what will the AAPI caucus's next steps be towards it?
Sure. So I'm sure I'm covering some ground that some people have already tread upon, but there needs to be a two-step process to this. One is the top-down one. I think YDA's leadership ought to huddle and talk about how we can use our issues director effectively, how our executive committee can be effective in this, how these instructions can go down to the local level, and some of that's going to have to come from the top. But I also think, on the other hand, there needs to be a bottom-up approach too. Those of us who are members of caucuses, who are members of our local YD's chapter, should submit their ideas before the platform committee meets in LA and get that conversation started. Within the AAPI caucus, we already have on our Google Drive a list of some platform amendments that we want to put in to make sure that YDA is on the same page. And for example, in his speech, President Obama talked about wind power and solar power. For us here in the AAPI caucus, a lot of us are in the western states, there are some other sources of clean energy that we want to put in there and at least have that conversation about. The president also talked about our infrastructure. Another area that goes to Rashad's point about making sure that when building infrastructure, workers aren't abused, we want to put in more things for worker protection. On our list is recognizing the Davis-Bacon Act and prevailing wages on public works projects, which is really a technical thing, but it goes to help wages and make sure that workers don't suffer at the hands of their employers, especially on public works projects. So we got that conversation started, and I invite anyone listening to submit their ideas to the caucuses so we can talk about them and push them forward to the platform committee and make sure that we're ready and we're not scrambling when June or July comes around and the platform committee is accepting submissions. We want to be ready with a packet that we can take to them and say, here's what we need YDA to recognize so we can help the president and help the good members of Congress we're fighting for our principles and values to do just that. So that would be my addition.
Excellent. Okay, last question before we leave. What are going back to the State of the Union? And again, thank you everyone for listening and being a part. We love you very much, and I appreciate your support. Again, Black Caucus, you're amazing. And shout out to our friends, former DNC woman Monica Talmadge, chair of the Women's Caucus, Constantina Mays, and Tyler Dos Santos Tom of the great state of Hawaii, who's chair of our AAPI caucus. Last thing, President Obama talked about a lot. What did he not address that you would have liked to have heard him talk about tonight on the State of the Union? Anybody can take that first. Dina, go ahead.
I'm trying to go back and think through. I don't even have a. I have to pull up the copy of the speech again and reread it because I was tweeting and then commenting as I was going. But I think he really did a good job hitting all the points. I don't see anything. I'm just trying to think through now if there's anything particular that I hope he talked more of. I mean, he hit equal pay. I mean, um, I would have to give you have to give me another moment to really think through to see what I don't think he really hit on. I would say one thing maybe that I'd like to see more happen in the media that hasn't really been going on is child care, which is a huge issue for women. And you start to see that kind of going around as far as the women being able to, if they're pregnant, go to work, things like that, and then what happens after they have their children. And so something like that, I think in the media it's not being touched upon. But I don't know if I heard that enough from the president, but I'd have to go back and read through the speech again.
Okay.
Okay.
Tyler and Monica?
Yeah, I'll hop in. I think one thing that I wish that he had talked about a little bit more is the foreign policy picture. And I know in YDA we don't often talk about foreign policy. The president did talk about, I think, some very present and timely challenges, and very recent ones, Cuba being one he talked about. He talked about Ebola, and talked a little bit about some of the climate change things he's been working on internationally. But in terms of an overarching vision for foreign policy, I wish we had a little bit more of that, because I know that this president is someone who grew up in Indonesia. He knows about the Pacific. He knows about Asia. And, I wish that he articulated that a little bit more, because I think the country, we are a global power. We're a country that looks towards Europe, and we need to support our friends in that part of the world. We're a country that touches the Pacific. We're one of the biggest countries in the Pacific, and we have lots of friends in that neck of the woods that we need to be supporting as well. And in the Southern Hemisphere, these are areas that we've had a complicated history with, but this is a president who also understands that. And I think he's someone who can articulate a vision about how we approach some of these developing countries and make sure that they're doing things in the right way and that we're a supportive partner for what they want to do and not just telling them what we want them to do. And so I hope that that's something that maybe we hear about more in his last 2 years, because I think he can accomplish a lot in that regard before 2016.
Why do you think, Tyler, that he didn't really mention as much in the foreign policy thing?
I think that every time he talks about something even remotely controversial, it gets picked apart by his opponents, and that's a challenge. And as we've seen with things like Benghazi, that's the moment he talks about anything foreign policy related, it just gets pounced on, which is really unfortunate. Mm-hmm. But given that this is his moment, I think he did have a chance to, but maybe in the future or maybe through Secretary Kerry, we can hear more about the successes that he's had in big and small ways internationally. So, yeah.
Right. I think Monica might have dropped off. I missed the very beginning, but I read through the transcript and I didn't see it. I'm gonna just put it out there. I have a problem with little boys and young men who look like me being killed in these streets. I'm not. There's a whole different conversation that I'll have about black people and parenting and child rearing, and the village raising a child, and we need to take care of our children better, and we need to beat their behinds when they're acting up and all the stuff, all that. But that's not the problem. The problem that I have right now, for the purposes of this conversation, is what? The life of a human cannot be undervalued. In America, no disrespect to my friends at PETA or the American Humane Society or the SPCA, please do not come for me because I don't have time for y'all right now. But in America, the life of an animal is more important than the life of a human being, especially if that person has skin that's the color of mine. And I personally have a problem with that. That bothers me. That bothers me greatly. The president is a man who, if he stands in the sun too long, he'll start to look like me a little bit more. You can already look and tell that he might have a little bit of color in him. But, let him stand in the sun a little bit. He starts to bake a little, gets that good golden brown. So it bothers me. And I understand that in some instances he can't. I get it. I understand. But it still bothers me, that he's not addressing those things as regularly. Every time he gets in front of a camera, he has a chance to address the nation. The nation needs to know that he's not pleased with that. And I feel like there are a lot of people who engage in those activities just because they want to put him on a hot seat. They want black people to be just as frustrated with President Obama as they are. They don't want this. I mean, like you got idiots trying to cross the fence to get into the White House to assassinate him. Like, what kind of foolishness is that? We've never heard of that. The worst thing that happened to Bush was they threw a shoe at him. Like what kind of foolishness are we dealing with? So, I just personally would have appreciated him addressing those things. And some people say, oh, well, that's not, the State of the Union wasn't the place for that. Yeah, the State of the Union is the place for that because you have, so Eric Garner was really supposed to die, like, for selling loose cigarettes. Like, are we serious? Loose cigarettes are more valuable than a person's life. A can of soda is more valuable than a person's life. Some of these things are just not adding up to me. And I would love to believe that my life is a little bit more valuable than a can of soda and some loose cigarettes. Now, again, I'm not excusing these actions. I look a mess. Y'all didn't tell me I should button up my shirt now. Yeah, it's been a long day. But I'm not excusing the fact of what Michael Brown did, and I'm not saying that what Eric Garner did was correct. But I think that it's senseless when we have people losing their life and then the country validates it. All of those cases came up at one time, within a month or 2 months of each other, and we saw the non-indictment after non-indictment after non-indictment after non-indictment, and you have a nation, like you have a community in this nation that you expect to be calm and peaceful. I'm not uplifting the riots and the protesting that was done, the rioting and the looting. I'm not uplifting that at all. But you've got to question, like, the psyche of the people who are in charge, because you actually thought that people were going to be fine with your decision to not pursue justice for these people. And that's my problem with it. These actions are taken and we're supposed to be fine with it. That's not cool. So if I could have heard President Obama talk about anything, it would have been that. I don't know who has he even named the next Attorney General yet?
I'm not. I thought they had somebody.
Who is it?
I'm not sure. I have to.
Tyler, who's the next Attorney General?
Oh, her name escapes me. She's from New York.
Hold on. I think she's Loretta. He's going to nominate Loretta Lynch.
Yeah, that's right.
I think Loretta Lynch, right? Yeah, from New York.
Cool. So that's what I would have liked to have heard him talk about. I would love to see more of those conversations. And you know what? I know they're uncomfortable, and I know they're unpopular. But what also was uncomfortable is burying a child who was killed senselessly. And what's even worse is when you have people like Rudy Giuliani, who's one of my favorite mayors. I think he's the king of martial law. He's a hot mess. And I like Rudy. I'm sorry. I like Rudy. But it bothers me when he sits there and he tries to justify the wrongful killing of a person by a police officer by saying, well, the majority of black deaths are by gangs and other black people. Well, the majority of the white women who are killed in America are by their psychotic white husbands. But you don't see me running around saying that on national television. Like, a lot of white women die by domestic violence, but we love to talk about the one who got killed by being mugged by a black person. Like the one when, 8,000 got killed by their crazy husbands and buried in the backyard, on a hiking trip or a scuba diving, trip down to Aruba. But we'll just let Lifetime Movie Network talk about that. I won't talk about that because I'm black, so I can't talk about it. Please, one of y'all talk because y'all know I'll go left field. Please jump in.
I mean, the general look. I don't. He shouldn't be your favorite anymore. If he was, you need to cut that out. Okay.
He was a great mayor. Like he was a great mayor. He was the mayor of New York during
mouth. He put his foot in his mouth. Okay?
He's a mess. I'm not validating what he said, but I mean, it's just like it's kind of like, really, Rudy? Like that's how you feel? Like you're really saying it's okay for a white police?
But if he's saying it now, like you don't think he was thinking that when he was the mayor? That comes from somewhere.
You're right, and you're correct.
Somewhere, because you're not elected anymore. You can, now be a little more liberal enough to speak and then you realize, oh, that person's not who we thought they were.
Exactly.
So let's be clear. I think that he may have thought that way at some point or another.
I say that to say it's like I'm not gonna justify like a black man mugging.
No.
I'm not gonna justify a black man mugging a white woman because white women get killed by their husbands in domestic violence. Neither action is correct.
Right.
So I'm not gonna we're talking about this. This is wrong. Now this is wrong. Also, we should also address that. And I think we do have to address black on black crime in the black community. But we have to address that in every community. Like this is crime. Even though America tries to make it seem like this. Crime is not a singular. It's not singular to any particular community. There are people in every ethnic group, every race, every community in America. We about to rock out. Who do crime? Who do stupid stuff? Who make mistakes? Who do. There are people across this country who make mistakes. It's not singular to one particular community. And that's my issue with all of the news rhetoric surrounding these non-indictment things is we're trying to make it seem like, oh, this is justified because, black people kill other black people. Everybody kills everybody. No. Killing is not relegated to one particular community.
And Rashad, I think this goes to a bigger point that we need to be focused on the big picture, because I think if we focus in on who was right in this instance and who was wrong and what the evidence was for this crime or what the grand jury should have done, we're never going to solve the big picture issues.
I agree.
And the big picture issues are tough ones, but we got to start somewhere. And so I guess before we sign off, because I need to head out, I guess my emphasis would be, let's take the small steps. Let's find things we can do in our own individual communities, whether it's our own neighborhoods or cities or counties or within our ethnic groups and caucuses, to start making those changes. Because step by step, we'll be able to make the big ones too.
Absolutely.
So that's just my 2 cents.
That was beautiful, Tyler. That was beautiful.
Well, thank you.
All right, we're gonna wrap this up. Dean, you got any last words?
No, I'm right there along with Tyler. I mean, look, we have to move our foot forward and walk the path that we were all told to walk. So I think Tyler hit it on the nail. If we don't start somewhere and start moving and helping in our local communities and putting ourselves out there and taking the risk to fight for what we believe in, if we sit on the sidelines and are quiet, then we're just as guilty as those that are fighting against these things.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank y'all for joining us tonight on Black Caucus YDA TV on YouTube and Google+. Thank you. I'm Rashad, executive producer. Thank you. But thank you all for joining us for real. We'll be back next month. It's Black History Month, so we'll be back 2 shows next month. And then in March, we will celebrate Women's History Month as well as Disabilities Awareness Month. And then in April, Tyler and I are going to do a segment about what happens when you mix African American culture with Asian American culture, and how beautiful African American and Asian American babies are. So it's gonna be great. Anyway, thank you all for joining us. Hashtag 15 Strong. Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Google+, at Black Caucus YDA, at Women of YDA. And Tyler, what's yours? What's your Twitter
You
handle?
can find me at Tyler DST.
Talking about the caucus.
Oh, we don't have one yet. We're working on it.
All
Right.
right.
We'll
We'll get
it's on
there.
our list.
Let's
We'll
get one.
there.
Dina,
Small steps.
what's your personal Twitter so they can follow you online? Dina?
Oh, mine? Oh, mine's at Dina, DINAMEIS. Dina.
All right, and then you can follow us at Black Caucus YDA. And then if you want to follow me personally, wouldn't recommend it because I'm a little crazy. The RRG Complex. Anyway, thank you all for joining us tonight, and y'all have a great night.
My thing.